What's up, guys? I'm Ed. I'm the managing editor of Guitar Space. I'm here with Matt Blackett. And Matt, you're with EverTune.
I am the director of market development with EverTune. I've been with the company for about 3 years, but I actually became aware of the product back in 2012 when I was an editor at Guitar Player magazine. And I always say it was the most revolutionary, groundbreaking product that I was able to review in 15 years at the magazine. And I just knew straight away I wanted to work with them. And a few years ago, we made that a reality.
What is it? Tell us about the EverTune Bridge.
Okay, well, I'll show it to you right here. So this is EverTune, and then here it is on the back. Okay, it is a series of springs and levers, purely mechanical. And what they do, it's 6 individual saddle modules. They maintain constant tension on the strings at all times. And what that means is the guitar won't go out of tune for temperature changes, monster string bends, aggressive playing, any of that. And it will also intonate properly all the way up the neck when set up properly. Because generally speaking, the reason guitars don't sound nice in the upper registers, it's not because the frets are in the wrong place. It's because the string tension isn't right. And so this compensates for that in real time and will intonate flawlessly all the way up the neck.
Well, and how does that affect bending, though?
Okay, that's a common question that we get. And so you can set up the EverTune Bridge so that bends and vibrato feel very natural with it. And so essentially what the system does is it operates in a series of zones. And so zone 1 is going to be when you're below pitch, okay? And so the system is not active then, and the string's just going to operate like any other string. Then when you're in zone 2, which is where the bridge is active, and I can go ahead and demonstrate it here, is I'm going to detune my E string. You notice I'm detuning it, but the pitch isn't changing. Okay,
Yeah,
now it just
we are having a little bit of a hard time hearing that.
Yeah, and you know what? There are videos that we have on our site, and there are videos that other people like Ola England have done that are going to make this a lot clearer than what you can hear on a Zoom call. But what just happened is the string went below pitch, so the bridge is not active now. Now I'm going to tune it back up. And if you can hear that, it just went above pitch. That means I've gone through zone 2, crossed over into zone 3. Now what I need to do is just back off about a half turn, and now bends and vibrato will be normal, but the string will not go out of tune. This is how I choose to set my EverTune guitars up. I want to be right on the cusp of when zone 2 crosses over into zone 3, what we call the bend stop there. So then it's going to react pretty much like a regular guitar. Bends and vibrato are going to be normal, but it won't go out of tune. A common misconception that we hear is that, oh, you can't bend strings on an EverTune guitar. Not true, but it is possible to set the bridge so that even if I were to bend the string, it wouldn't change pitch. It's a very strange feeling. Most people would not want it. But I do know producers, like serious producers, who keep their guitars set that way because for tracking rhythm parts, they don't want anyone to squeeze a chord out of tune. They don't want anything to drift from finger pressure or bad technique or anything like that. So it is possible to have it in this sort of safe zone. And, you know, that's an application. That's not how I set my guitars, and certainly not how I would gig with them or anything like that. But that's how powerful the system is. It would be like I don't know what you can hear, but I'll set my G string. So now I'm going to bend it. And the pitch is not changing. Okay.
Yeah.
Again, most of the time
that's weird to see.
It's weird to see. It's weird to feel too. And so a lot of people like to do that like some kind of parlor trick. They'll hand somebody an EverTune guitar and go, oh, bend a string. And they bend it and the pitch doesn't change. I don't like that because it creeps out people, right? Guitarists don't like that. And so I don't do that. I like to have my guitar reacting very, very normally. Give it to people, have them play it. All they notice is it's flawlessly in tune. It sounds great. And then you can show them all the sort of parlor tricky kind of things with it, you know. But generally speaking, we really want people to know that, no, an EverTune equipped guitar is just like any other guitar. It just won't go out of tune. And so, I mean, it'll do things that no other guitar can do, and that's no exaggeration. The trade-offs for it, and there are a couple, It's a pretty big install, right? I mean, it's like we had to take a fair amount of wood out of this guitar. You lose wood, but you gain mass with it. And so in terms of what it does for the tone of the guitar, all my EverTune guitars sound better to me because they're all in tune, right? But you can't take out that much wood without it doing something to the tone, but it's really no different than a Floyd Rose or a Strat tremolo or that kind of stuff.
Oh, okay. And how easy is it for me to set it up for my playing if I want to tweak it and make these adjustments so that it responds to the way that I bend and the way that I play and how hard I pick?
Right. It's there's a learning curve, but it's very learnable. It didn't take me long to really figure out how the system works and to be able to get my guitar set up exactly the way I wanted them to. A couple string changes is all it really takes for anybody to get comfortable with the system. But I do spend a little bit more time when I change strings to dial them in. You still have to stretch them and all that. The bridge kind of does that for you, but to really get it, you want to set it where you intend to live. And for me, that's right at the bend stop with that, so that my guitar just reacts like any other guitar. It just doesn't go out of tune anymore. And I spend a little bit more time dialing in the intonation, and it's worth it for me because once it's in, it will stay in. And I mean, like for a month, it's crazy. I've always been lazy about changing strings. I never change strings on my EverTune guitars now because they never go out of tune. And the record for this, I have a friend who's at a major guitar company and he has an EverTune equipped guitar. He left the strings on it for 9 years and he hit a chord and his guitar was still perfectly in tune. We don't recommend that. Change your strings, people, But to get back to your question, it's not difficult, but there is a learning curve. It is different than how you would set up a non-EverTune guitar. But again, very learnable, easy to learn. Once you get it, you've got it, and there's no problem with it. We were talking earlier just about different string gauges, different tunings. It can accommodate a variety of different string gauges and a variety of different tunings. But there is a range of how far you can change the tuning for a given string gauge. And, everything's doable with it. But like if I wanted to take this guitar down a full step below pitch and I use 9s, I couldn't do that. I would have to use 10s for it. And again, that's just balancing the tension of the strings with the tension of the springs and back. But yeah, anything's possible with it for sure.
Right, that's cool. Yeah, and the things that we were talking about, because like I told you, I'm an ex-New York guy, and going in the subways where it was hot, and during the winter and it's below zero, when you go out in the street level, then you get into the club and we run into different issues here. Now I'm in the Andes Mountains where you go into the club to set up and you're doing sound check and they're afraid that they don't want to turn on the AC just yet. And then they turn on the AC and it's overkill and your instrument's been sitting there for a couple hours.
Right.
And all of a sudden, same thing with playing festivals when you get onto those hot stages and stuff and you're sitting in the sun. And this solves all those problems.
Yes, it does. It's impervious to temperature changes, humidity changes. The bridge will compensate for that. And I've done gigs in direct sunlight for an hour, never went out of tune. And of course, the other guitarist in my band didn't have an EverTune equipped guitar. He went wildly out of tune. So I sounded like I was wrong then, but I wasn't. I kept checking it. And it's... and I'll never forget the first gig I ever did with an EverTune guitar was an outdoor gig. I've told this story that they said, oh, you can just set your guitar here. And so I leaned it against this trash can that was there. I did not realize that the trash can was full of ice. Okay, true story. And so when I pulled my guitar out, it was cold to the touch. Okay. And I mean, it was practically frosty. Had to get right on stage in direct sunlight. Never went out of tune. I panicked the entire gig because I'm just thinking, there's no way
ask you about
stay
that.
in tune, right? And I kept checking it after every song. And no, never went out of tune.
Ooh, yeah, when you're in the studio, you're also checking your tuning every 4 bars.
That's right. That's right. No, it saves an incredible amount of time in the studio, and that's why we have a lot of artists that they'll use EverTune for specific things. So there are plenty of guys that only use it in the studio. They don't gig with it. Guitarists like Steve Stevens, he will use it both live and in the studio. And it's just, we have a great quote from him on our site where he said, I got tired of producers always telling me to check my tuning, and now nobody tells me that. So it's great. And then like Guthrie Govan had us do an install for him, and when he got it, to be perfectly candid, wasn't crazy about how he perceived it changed the feel and kind of the resonance of his guitar. And so I told him, I said, look, that guy's got such great ears. I said, I would never tell you that you're not hearing what you think you're hearing. But I said, just let it play to its strengths. Just mess around with it, do some recording with it, see what you think, and see if it can be a valuable tool for you. And so I got an email from him like 2 weeks later, and he says, okay, I haven't played any guitar except for my EverTune guitar. And he says, not because it's my favorite guitar, but because I've gotten addicted to my ability to get a keeper take at any time of the day or night without having to check my tuning before I go. He gets an idea, puts it down, bam, done. And it's like, all right, well, there you go. And so for me, I tend to use my EverTune guitars for just about everything. But like we were talking about, like the whole tremolo thing, I like to use a whammy bar, and we don't currently have a whammy bridge. That is probably in the future. I don't see how that's possible, but the inventor of the EverTune Bridge, Cosmos Lyles, is so freaking smart. He says he can do it, and I just get out of the way, right? I couldn't do his job for 5 seconds. He's an engineer and he's an inventor, and he says he can do it. And it's like, all right. But when I need a whammy equipped guitar, either in the studio or on stage or just for fun, then I just pick up one of those, of which I have many. So that's great.
So let me, I got 2 more questions for you. One of them was a little off the cuff. How long before you started using the EverTune Bridge did you get comfortable enough to have that, to take it on to that first gig where you leaned it against the trash can full of ice?
It didn't take long at all. And I'd had a little bit more experience with it because I'd already done a review for Guitar Player, and I may even have done 2 reviews at that point. So I knew the ins and outs of it a little bit. And then when I got it installed in the first guitar that I put it in, I, again, was so excited about my new toy. I've been playing that guitar quite a bit at home and in the studio. And then I brought it on rehearsals and just saw that it was performing really, really well. And so I wasn't afraid to bring it on the gig at all. It was actually, it gave me a real feeling of confidence. But it was, that probably was a couple months after I got the thing. But the only thing is if somebody got like a brand new EverTune equipped guitar today and they've got a gig tonight, you could absolutely bring it on the gig. But if you were to break a string or if something were to go weird, you might not be as comfortable with that. I definitely encourage people to spend some time with it, figure out how the bridge works. We hear this from touring artists as well, that their techs initially think like, wait a minute, what is this thing? I've never used this before. And then they spend just a little bit of time with it and they realize, okay, this just made my life a whole lot easier. And so,
I'm not that
take long at all.
I'm pretty bold with like bringing a pedal on for the first time and learning it on the gig, but I'm not that bold that I'd want to get used to the guitar.
Yeah, a little bit of time would do the trick.
Sure. Well, Matt, I want to thank you for taking the time to talk to us, and
thank you.
I really appreciate it. Wish you all the best for the new year, and hopefully we'll meet up at NAMM.
Yes, that's right. Let's make a point of it.
All right. Thanks, Matt. All right, guys, that was my interview with Matt Blackett from EverTune. You can find out more about EverTune at visiting their website, evertune.com. They do have an installation program. They'll actually broker the deal where you can buy a guitar and then they'll install it for you and have their guys do it. Now, here's the thing. We spoke for a little over an hour. What you got to see was 15 minutes of that, and it was just two guitar players geeking out on guitar stuff. I was so impressed with with Matt with EverTune that I actually signed up to try out their installation program. So check back. I'm going to report on how the whole process goes. All right. Thanks for watching.